take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Take Flight Podcast. This is episode number 137, and it's a Take Flight Takeaways episode hosted by me, Shuwel, one of the 4 members of the Take Flight Podcast team. Now, these takeaway episodes you should know by now, but they're short, bite-sized episodes of around 10 minutes where each of us take turns to share some takeaways and learnings which we think would be of value to others. Now, in case you haven't checked out any of these takeaways episodes before, I highly recommend you check them all out. And also, if you're looking for a spicy debate, check out our last group episode, episode number 136, where we debated creating wealth with a pension. It did get heated at times, but lots of good points to think about. Now, back to this episode. I will be talking about a transition that every leader goes through when you move from being an individual contributor or solo entrepreneur to transitioning into a leader or scaling your business while managing a team. Now, specifically, it's the skill of becoming very comfortable with not knowing the answers and being instead able to ask much better questions. In this episode, I'll give some context on my own journey while also sharing with you a frame which has been very helpful for me during the last 24 to 36 months. Now, as always, some context. During the last 3 years, I've transitioned into leadership roles in my career. So, professionally, I'm responsible for a country business where I have a team covering sales, marketing, medical, and other areas of activity. Now, in parallel to that, as mentioned in previous episodes, I'm also building out Ahmed Capital Group, otherwise known as ACG, which focuses on real estate investments and developments. Now, this started a few years back. Where I was essentially a solo entrepreneur. And this has really scaled a lot during the last 3 years through building out a strong team, bringing on great partners, and really focusing on our investment area. Now, during that journey, in both of those examples, I've gone through that pivotal moment of growth where you go from doing everything on your own to then leading multiple people and stakeholders. Now, as many of you know, when doing things on your own, you are used to having all the answers, driving everything yourself, and getting things done. However, you quickly realize to scale and grow, this model doesn't work, and you need to shift to being comfortable with not having the answers and instead learning to ask much better questions to those around you and specifically your team. So, asking better questions seems easy on the surface, right? And I thought it would be initially as well. But to do this really well, you need to go a few levels deeper. And a frame that I've been able to practice and develop over the years to ask better questions, I will share with you now. And this is essentially split into 3 areas. So, to ask better questions, think about considering these 3 parts next time. So, part 1, what is the problem you're trying to solve in front of you? Now, the more specific you can be, the better here to finding the right question and eventually the best solution. So, let's play out an example. In ACG, when moving from small 10 to 20K refurbishment work to 150 to 200,000 full scale redevelopment work, I knew our initial team of tradesmen would not be able to do the work at that higher level. So we needed to find the right team of contractors for larger developments. Now, the easy question to ask would have been, who can do large developments for me next? But as I said before, the value comes from diving a few levels deeper. So let's get specific. I needed a team with a proven track record of developments that have done this before. I also needed a team that was local to my investment area because communication is a lot easier with people in the area that you're working in. And I also needed a team that was looking to build a long-term relationship because with our growth targets, we want to do multiple redevelopments at the same time, not just a single transaction. So tying that all together, the better question and clear problem to solve is, who can do large developments for me next with a proven track record, local to my investment area, and wants to work recurringly for the long term? See? So the better, more refined question allows me to focus on really finding the right solution. So that was part 1. Now, part 2, who is the person or organization that can help you and the team the most effectively? So, with a clear problem to solve, as we framed in part 1, it's now time to figure out who is the right person or team that can help. So, notice how being specific with the problem to solve in part 1 can really help identify exactly what you're looking for. Now, for those of you in the corporate space, another example, if you're working in a large company, there are departments for almost everything, so it can be difficult to know who to reach out to. So, being clear on the problem to solve, as mentioned in part 1, can really help to find the who in part 2. Another important point to note with the who is realize very quickly you do not need to know the answer yourself. So, it's important to move out of your own way and find the right person or team with the right solution. Now, yes, in the short term, this can typically cost more. Sometimes in the short run, it can take a little bit of time to build out the right relationships with the right people. But in the long run, asking the right person or team or organization can help you and your team grow even quicker. Now, part three, when is the right time to ask? So, timing is key here. So, I'm sure you've been in a situation where you're asked a question and it seems to be the wrong time. And however much you'd like to help, you're just unable to help. Now, this happens to all of us all the time. But in this case, you want to increase your chances to getting the right solution. Now, if I bring back the example that I mentioned earlier, when I was looking for a construction company to help us with ACG for a 200,000 redevelopment cost project, it would have been terrible to ask them 1 week prior to collecting the keys on our next project, especially as I wanted to build a relationship for the long run. Instead, in this consideration with timing, I started to speak to different construction companies almost a year before I knew a project was about to be completed. Now, this gave us both enough time beforehand to be clear on what we're looking for, get good examples of previous projects, and really build out the foundations for a long term partnership. So, timing is very important to your question. So, always keep this in mind. So, in summary, for all leaders, you will shift from having all the answers to becoming a good leader asking good questions. But if you want to ask great questions, keep these three things in mind next time. Number one, what is the problem you're trying to solve? The clearer and more specific you can be here, the better. And really take that time initially to think this out. Number two, who is the person or organization that can help your team the most effectively? Again, in this case, really take your time, build out the right problem to solve, and then with this, pinpoint who it is you need to ask. As mentioned before, become very comfortable with not having the answers yourself or your team, but really being able to shift this out to find a solution. And then finally, part three, when is the right time to ask in this scenario? Timing is key, like most things in life, and really take this into consideration before you ask your question. So that's it. Hope that's been useful. In case you have any questions, would be interested to learn more about ACG, invest with us, or if I can help you in any other way, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Shuwel, Shuwel, or Instagram at Shuwel1. Please make sure to check out our previous Takeaways episodes in case you haven't, as well as our Take Flight Talks episodes where we talk to different leaders in their space. The last interview with Yvonne around the VC topic, being an underrepresented minority in some of these rooms where we're talking about investment, was really an amazing episode. So make sure to check that out. If you haven't done so already, please do also subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to us on. Leave a review if you have 30 seconds to spare, or even better, share it with someone who you think may find it helpful. We'll be back next week for a new episode for you, our loyal listeners, the flyers. Keep on taking flight and flying high.
Take off, take flight with you.